It's Arjun Erigaisi versus Boris Gelfand. Arjun chops the pawn. Boris also takes it. Bishop takes lot of captures. Knight moves in. Let's take stock of what's happening. It's 4 pawns each and knight endgame. But Arjun has forked the pawn and the king and is going to be pawn up. He takes on f7, but Boris says that your pawn on a4 is lonely here. So that means that there's a lot of counterplay flowing his way. But still, Arjun might be able to win a pawn on the king side. This is a very complex endgame, and to play it, Arjun has 2 minutes 25 seconds while the legend Boris Gelfand has 1 minute 20 seconds. He plays his knight to c5. Now a4 is hanging, there's no way to defend it. What do you do as white? Yes, he goes to g5 and he attacks the pawn on h7. Notice that if you were to play h6, he plays his pawn up to h6 and he says that look, now you can go to f7 and attack, which Arjun does, and king comes to d5. Very classy move, because if you played h5 then knight e5 check and you would have lost this pawn. With king d5, the king is trying to dominate the knight, so Arjun takes the pawn on h6 and Boris takes on a4. Now the net result is that white is a pawn up, but look at black's pawn, it is extremely strong on the queen side. Arjun now down to 1 minute 30 seconds. Boris still has 1 minute 22 seconds to work this out, and it's 10-second increment per move. This is objectively a draw. b5, the pawn is pushing forward. You can see Boris's determination there. Complete focus needed in endgames like this. Arjun brings his king up and he's like, if you push the pawn, my king is ready to stop it. On the other hand, white is still unclear on which way he should create a passed pawn on the king side. A check to the king. Now, where does Arjun go? Can he go to e3 or c3? These are two squares where his king can go to. He goes to c3 and Boris decides to play his knight to e6. His idea could be to go to f4, put pressure on g2 and h3 pawns. And that's the reason why Arjun first pushes his pawn on h4. He fixes the weakness on g6, which can be very handy. The knight moves in, it's attacking g2, so Arjun pushes his pawn to g3. Boris is down to 18 seconds. He needs to move faster. The position is still a draw. Knight h3, good move. Keeping f2 under pressure. And Arjun goes to d3. Very tricky move, because if you went to b4, then the black king would enter in and the position would end in a draw. But with king d3, Boris Gelfand now has to figure out, should he push his pawn to b4, should he play his king to e6 to f5. There are many options, but look at his time, 7 seconds. He pushes to b4 and Arjun quickly moves to f4. His plan now is to play knight e5 and attack the pawn at g6, but Boris hardly has time. He has 8, 7, 6, he needs to move 5, 4, 3. Boris, look at the clock. Look at the clock. You're losing on time is 0. He pushes his pawn, which is a good move, but he has lost on time. Arjun points it out. Boris can't believe it that he's lost on time. Arjun apologizes there. The position is drawn. They analyze that after b3, knight e3 check, king e6, king c3, and then knight f2, king takes b3, knight e4, g4, knight d2, king here, knight f3, and then Arjun says f5, f5 takes and knight takes and king e5. This position seems like a draw.